As if things weren't bad enough for hardware enthusiasts, with AMD and nvidia branding low-end GPUs as mid-range and charging high-end prices for them. Now it looks like, according to recent reports, not even the actual low-end and even mid-range GPUs will be available to hardware enthusiasts and gamers at any price. How can that be? Well, if there's one thing that AI workloads rely on is memory, lots of it, and as a result, DRAM prices have been rising as demand from AI builders far outpaces supply. This effectively means that wafers that would otherwise be used for consumer memory will be reallocated to serve the demand in AI products, and that's where gaming GPUs will take a big hit. According to recent rumors, both nvidia and AMD are considering cancelling entry-level and mid-range GPUs for consumers, but the consequences of the RAM apocalypse are far more troubling than most realize. I think the whole hardware enthusiast niche might have to go away for a while. Let's dig into what's going on, but first, a word from today's sponsor, who is actually integral to making this video. Storyblocks has changed the game for me as a content creator. Check this out. Data center. Here's footage that's perfect for today's video, so I can just download all of these and I don't have to go hunting down footage of data centers on YouTube and wait for ages for permission to use it and all that. With Storyblocks, you get unlimited downloads of diverse and high-quality media for a single predictable subscription cost. You can download as many assets as you want and test them out in your videos. I know a lot of you are considering starting a YouTube channel as a main business or as a side business, and Storyblocks has over 1 million assets and curated and fresh content that can save you a ton of time. And it's not just videos. Everything you need is in one place. Templates for animation, music, sound effects, images, and more, all with a monthly or annual plan with no hidden or extra fees. And the footage here is from real artists, so you can create stories that feel authentic and give your content credibility. And something that for my specific use case as a YouTuber is fundamental is that anything you download with Storyblocks is 100% royalty-free and pre-licensed, so no nasty surprises in the future with content claims on YouTube, especially as you can add your YouTube channel ID to the Storyblocks account to whitelist your channel to help prevent such claims. So to get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one set price, head to storyblocks.com/Cortex or click the link in the description. I recently saw my mom, who is in her 60s, pull out her phone to use an AI app to identify a plant in her garden and get detailed information on how to care for it. And this amusing occurrence got me thinking about how the instrumentalization of AI will evolve in the coming decades. You see, what's going on with AI has no precedent, so this is not something that we can analyze using models from past technological developments. Some people have compared the AI hype investments to how railroads were built in the late 1800s and throughout the last century, or roads or other infrastructure that required huge initial investments without immediate returns on the promise of future usefulness. But I think these comparisons fail to capture the unique nature of the AI boom. Secondly, I think conflating software and hardware in AI is misguided because it doesn't really matter if ChatGPT eventually stagnates or even collapses because it can't recoup the money needed to keep it relevant and useful. That would have little to no bearing when it comes to the demand for hardware in AI data centers, probably for a long while. If we look back at the dot-com bubble, which is another past model people like to use to predict where AI is going, the collapse of websites like pets.com didn't make the internet go away. I mean, sure, high-profile crashes like that slowed down investment, but over an extended period of time, data centers still had to be built. The need for storage kept growing. Faster wired and wireless technology had to be developed and deployed. And still today, a whole market exists to supply the growing hardware needs of the internet. Very few of the big websites that were around in the mid-90s are still operating, and yet the internet is still here. And similarly, just Just like a random gardening app found its way into my mom's phone, the instrumentalization of AI is evolving alongside greater hardware capabilities and surprising or unexpected consumer take-up, even for applications with no marketing behind them. What I mean is that AI is not just technology for its own sake, but is shaped by and wielded for specific social, commercial, and organizational ends, like gardening in the case of my mother. Shout out to Mom Tax, by the way. AI is also peculiar in the way it's being shaped and reshaped because of unintended side effects and emergent behaviors. Many have developed a disdain for AI slop in visual arts and music, but at the same time are happy to use AI when it saves them time in mundane tasks, and AI development and even legislation is adapting to public sentiment. This likely means that AI itself still isn't universally defined. But as we are seeing all of this develop, there are a couple of markers that have remained immovable, unaffected. No matter how models change or what the social impact of AI is, or how it's instrumentalized, memory and energy are the principal commanding resources that are enabling this revolution. And there's no end to the need of these resources in sight. When it comes to energy, efforts are being made to bring decommissioned nuclear power plants back online and to build new capacity. If energy was the only bottleneck, then I think we could indeed compare the AI hype cycle to the railroads build-up of the past century. But I think memory has a greater impact on AI build-up than even energy, because memory deeply impacts both the hardware and the software sides of the coin. In case you're not aware, what are the actual consequences for consumers in the increasing demand for memory in AI? As of the making of this video, looking at a basic 64 gig kit of DDR5 at 6,000 megatransfers per second and CL40, like this one from Crucial, we see a relatively stable price in the last 6 months at around the $200 mark, dropping down to as low as $140 back in August of this year. But then, from mid-October, we see this massive price hike, up to $500 now. That's right, from $140 to $500 in less than 4 months. That's an increase of roughly 250%, give or take. So, from the perspective of memory makers like Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron, the big money coming from data center and AI factories means priority goes to hyperscalers and AI companies like Meta, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, nvidia, and AMD, with orders from those being made years in advance. That means consumer products like PCs and phones, which represent lower margins for memory companies, are getting deprioritized. And this is where things might take a turn for the worse for hardware enthusiasts. The stuff that's still on shelves, well, you've guessed it, it's getting price gouged to capitalize on this shift in priorities. But what happens when the current stock with these inflated prices gets depleted? Samsung has just announced that they will be increasing DRAM capacity by 200,000 wafers by next year, which is an unprecedented investment. For reference, Samsung's total production capacity is currently around 650,000 to 700,000 wafers per month. So this additional 200,000 represents close to a third of its entire DRAM output, as reported by etnews.com. So will it be that easy to fix the problem? Just increase wafer production to deal with a temporary speculative mania? I don't think so. I highly recommend you read this report written by Gavin Bonshaw, formerly a reviewer and analyst at Anantech, now running his own website at bontechlabs.com, where he explains in detail how the memory situation is developing and the market dynamics. Ever since Anantech shut down, it's been increasingly difficult to find good tech content from people who actually know what they're talking about, and that is not a glorified ad, so I highly recommend you follow Gavin's work. As Gavin reports, the AI demand has already changed the market dynamics considerably, to the point that the days of affordable RAM kits for your next PC build might be over for a good while. Since high-value AI customers are booking years in advance, this gives Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron leverage on how much they need to ramp up production without risking ending up with a ton of unsold inventory in the near future, or too much production capacity without a market to support it. And like I discussed earlier, the unique nature of AI and its expansion means that there's no foreseeable end to the buildup of AI infrastructure, so the demand for memory will only go up. Until AI gets better defined and stable players emerge, the buildup will continue. It could be half a decade or more of supply not satisfying demand for memory. When we look at the dot-com bubble, infrastructure was built up well ahead of demand based on projections, and for a long while we had more fiber capacity than we knew what to do with. That hasn't been the case with AI. The capacity has been saturated with real demand for some time now, leading to long-term contractual arrangements. This past October, Microsoft reported that Azure's AI service exceeded supply again. Microsoft also disclosed nearly $400 billion in upcoming contracts that average 2 years in length. We did not observe this level of demand during the dot-com bubble. Quite the opposite. So all this demand for memory means Samsung, Micron, and SK Hynix have an interesting problem on their hands. Because memory performance is barely scaling, the capex investment needed to satisfy current and contracted demand will result in higher wafer capacity for a basically stagnant technology, which is not a good long-term strategy when it comes to silicon, and potentially catastrophic if the AI boom turns out to be a bubble and it bursts. So what will Samsung and buddies do? Well, I think they will build more capacity at unprecedented levels, but that will take time. And until they do, the DIY PC market is pretty much over as we know it. Because this affects more than RAM kits, anything that requires memory will be greatly affected, even down to phones and laptops. But more relevant to us, consumer GPUs, which were already overpriced, will simply disappear from shelves. Why would AMD and nvidia, or Intel for that matter, put low-margin products on the channel when they have limited amounts of memory to use and there's extreme demand for high-margin AI products that need that memory? It would make no sense to continue releasing consumer GPUs, except for the 5090 level cards, and even those will have to go up in price considerably, as covered by Club386.com, citing a report by the Korea Economic Daily. Channel sources shared insider information that AMD and nvidia will increase prices of the current consumer products starting in January, and that they are outright considering not producing any more low-end or even mid-range cards for the foreseeable future. Yeah, it's that bad. But this won't impact just GPUs. Pre-built PCs, gaming laptops, smartphones, tablets, game consoles, the recently announced Steam Box, VR headsets, and mini PCs. All of this stuff needs memory and is low margin. Even if AMD and nvidia and other companies commit to producing chips for these types of devices, they will be in nominal quantities, just to keep appearances and to keep partners around. So when will things go back to normal, and what should you do now? Well, like I said earlier, the AI boom is unprecedented and unique. There's no model we can use to predict how it will develop. You see, the companies that will emerge successful in the next decade will be the ones that built a foundation that can enable AI instrumentalization beyond what we are currently seeing. The AI boom that will create the next Google or Amazon will not be based on adding AI features like chatbot agents to existing systems, like what Microsoft has just done with Windows 11. That's just the first wave of experiments, and honestly mostly a fad. AI companies are realizing that they need to set roadmaps for infrastructure and not software, because we still don't know exactly what software will emerge as long-term viable and profitable. But whatever it is, it will require lots of compute, lots of energy, and lots of memory. Now you might think that soon capital will stop flowing into this AI buildup, because, as some have suggested, without returns, venture capitalists and bankers will pull the plug on the endless supply of money. But I don't think that is likely to happen anytime soon. The reason for that is that investors and venture capitalists are getting a return on investment, just not a financial return. AI capacity is already saturated because AI is itself a response to a deep social problem that has been simmering in the last couple of decades and has now hit boiling point, and that's having reliable information that can provide a sense of stability. In a context where reality itself is subjective and malleable, people feel a desperate need to find stability. The money lenders backing the AI buildup are backing a system of information and real-time intelligence that can offer people people a sense of grounded reality, of objective truth, even if in actual fact it's all just an illusion. A system of information of this nature is extremely valuable. In principle, AI addresses a growing social need for unbiased information that is not manipulative and for intelligence that is congruent with an objective reality and immediately available. That's in principle, mind you. Having control over whatever defining companies emerge from the AI boom will be worth many times the crazy investments that we're witnessing from venture capital right now. So I don't think the money will stop flowing for a long while still, even without returns. And memory plays a crucial role in this whole process, far more than other hardware components. You see, it's not the companies with the largest models that will win the AI boom, or the companies with the most GPUs, but instead the companies that have the best data that addresses the current social challenges and the need for a stable, grounded reality that people can depend on. Data then needs to be available in memory for it to be useful and quickly processed. We could replace GPUs with ASICs, maybe even come up with better sources of energy, but the increasing memory demands, that's not a problem that has an easy solution other than building a lot more memory foundries, and that takes years. For now, my recommendation is to look out for integrated systems that come with memory and are on sale during this holiday period. If you've been thinking about upgrading your GPU, now is the time, and the same goes for phones and laptops. After January next year, prices will skyrocket and eventually there won't be any GPUs left at any price other than on the used market. I don't think people realize how bad this will become. I think it will be far worse than the prices and shortages we had during the crypto mining booms. Until AI becomes more clearly defined, this craze of building up infrastructure won't go away. So I don't expect the hardware enthusiast hobby to be a viable form of escapism for much longer. I think these industry-scale investments and demand for compute hardware will keep driving prices up and availability far below what traditional consumer and hobbyist segments are used to. Speaking of integrated systems, like I mentioned recently, I have a video coming up with a really interesting alternative computing device that I think you'll enjoy, so be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. A huge thank you to my patrons for their continued support. By becoming a patron, you get exclusive access to the Cortex Discord server, where a welcoming community of hardware enthusiasts and knowledgeable media folk gather every day to discuss tech and other nonsense. Thanks for watching, and until the next one.